Kia ora koutou e te whānau. Today I'm going to talk to you about Hone mo Kehu Kehu, or Hone mo Keha Keha, or Kehu as he was widely known. Kehu belonged to the tribe in the top of the South Island, Te Ika a Maui, Tū Matakokiri. At age 12, Kehu was enslaved by Ngāi Tahu after a battle in which his father had also been killed. Kehu's ownership changed when Ngāi Tahu was beaten in battle by an alliance between Tainui and Taranaki tribes on the west coast around 1830. He was now the property of Ngāti Rāroa tribes, chiefs Apirahama Panakenake and Porea Kahu Raupo, who settled in Motueka. Kehu became very familiar with the lay of the land in the area and gained much respect as the kaitiaki of the land on the inland trails between Nelson, Murchison and the Nelson Lakes. The kaitiaki is the guardian of the land. In Kehu's case, which became more of a guiding role, taking the first tourists out of our country on a guided trip. Those tourists were then to quickly become some of the sole operators of the biggest tourism venture, scam, sham or scandal known in the history of our great country, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Kehu was contracted out to the first European pioneers of this country, the New Zealand company founder Thomas Brunner, Charles Heafy, founder of the Heafy Track, and William Fox of Fox Glacier, two of the biggest tourism operations in the country to date. He took them on some epic journeys from the top of the South Island right down to the west coast of South Westland. He was given 6 acres of land for his hard mahi, and also the Traverse Range at the south end of Lake Rotoriti was named the Kehu Peak. He was a valued employee for 6 years and still was yet to do some of his best work yet. Kehu earned his real brownie points and jammed his foot securely in the door when he took up the offer of a lifetime. In 1846, Kehu was requested to assist in the guided travel of Brunner down the mighty Bulla, Kawaturi. The Bulla is not the largest river in New Zealand, but it has a massive catchment area and a massive amount of rainfall. So these conditions combined makes for a massive amount of flow most of the time. Brunner's accounts seem to contain nothing but a bad attitude towards the outdoors. He must have been hard to deal with and wasn't as hard into the outdoors as Kehu was. So they took 170 days to make it from Lake Rotoiti all the way down to Westport. Here are some of the entries of the diary of Brunner. On the 26th of February, I am starting to get sick of this exploring, the walking and the diet being both so bad. Not for the shame of the thing, I would return more comfortable quarters of the Riwaka Valley. 3rd March, continued rain, fern roots served out in small quantities twice a day. This is without exception the very worst country I have ever seen in New Zealand. Not a bird to be had or seen. 13th of March. We all passed a most miserable night, not having room to either lie down or sit up, and the woman moaning with pain. On the 14th of March, our fern root almost exhausted and no food to be found. On the 21st of March, rain continuing, dietary shorter, strength decreasing, spirits failing, prospects fearful. In the end, just 2 weeks from the coast, the crew had to eat their poor dog Rover. Imagine that, just chuck that in the hangi for tonight. So they had Kehu's mate, Pikiwai, his wife, and Kehu's wife with them. In the end, in early 1848, Brunner began his return journey to Nelson via the grey and Inangahua valleys. In the upper Buller Gorge, Brunner suffered a stroke which left him paralysed on one side. But with the aid of Kehu, he reached Nelson again in June 1848. Brunner received an award from the Royal Geographical Society in 1850 for his expedition, but ill health limited his ability to undertake further strenuous journeys. Pikiwai and his wife ended up ditching Brunner, so Kehu was the one that basically got Brunner back safely, and he didn't even get an award. It took him 170 days, on average 1 kilometre a day, to reach the west coast. There's not much information about Kehu after this journey, but I like to think he spent the last years of his life doing the things that he loved and going on epic missions with his bros on the weekends, not having to answer to the chiefs or to Brunner. And he had just been kicking back on his land, going for a bit of a paddle, getting some mean kamoana, all that sort of good stuff that you do in the able Tasman. Kehu managed to gain a lot of respect in his journey, a lot more than his mate Pikiwai did for ditching his client. Although he didn't get an award, he got some great praise from Brunner. To Kehu, I owe my life. A good shot, capital manager of a waka, and a sure snarer of wildfowl. But here's the utmost best call of praise I've ever heard. He's worth his weight in tobacco. So there you go. He did it all to be considered worth his weight in tobacco. Now that is what I want. That's what I want to be considered. When I do all those hard yards, do all my industry hours, I hope that someday someone's going to say that to me. You're worth your weight in tobacco, son. Good job. Thank you for listening to my tale. It's not a tale, it's a true story. But I like to spin it with a bit of zest in my own light. Hope you enjoyed it. Ka pai. Ka kite.